Hello, thank you for joining us for this informative webinar. I am Christopher Fox, the CEO of the American Association for Dental, Oral, and Craniofacial Research, and we're very pleased to bring this webinar on family and philanthropy, delivered by Brooks Scudder, who is a consultant in philanthropy and the founder of a company called Trek Advancement, which was founded in 2009. And AADOCR has been working with Brooks and Trek Advancement since 2014. And they have really helped AADOCR with our philanthropic program and provide needed information, not only to us, but to our members who are interested in making gifts to AADOCR. So whether or not you're thinking about AADOCR in your planning, or your institution or other favorite charity, I'm sure you'll find this webinar very informative. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Scudder. Brooks.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here today. Let's see. Well, now, of course, I'm having a little technical issue here. Let's see if this works. Okay, there we go. So I'll tell you a little bit about Trek Advancement to begin with. I spent my career as a major gift fundraiser for the University of Kentucky College of Dentistry, and then later the University of Louisville as Director of Regional Development. In 2009, I met my partner, Kelly Taylor, and we started Trek Advancement, and I have been a consultant in philanthropy since that time. Trek Advancement is a full-service consulting firm focused on helping our clients unlock the power of transformational philanthropy. We advocate for a donor-centered approach that allows our nonprofit clients to practice philanthropy rather than fundraising, and create opportunities to partner with donors to create win-win opportunities. We work with nonprofits, corporations, wealth managers, and professional advisors, as well as individuals and families on all aspects of philanthropic giving. I will say here at the onset, I always like to keep these things kind of conversational. If you have a question, there'll be some time at the end for questions and answers, but if you have a question, drop it in the chat box, and Sherry will help us with those as we go. So philanthropy, I wish I could do more. How can I make an impact and leave a legacy? When the need is great and positive social change is your motivation, there's always more work to do. There's more money to give or raise. There's more knowledge to share. This presentation, we're going to discuss how planned giving tools. Well, a couple of things. We're going to discuss raising charitable children, the role of philanthropy in families, and then also talk about planned giving tools to facilitate win-win scenarios with donors and the charitable organizations that they want to fund. This statue, which you all, I'm sure, feel like you've seen if you can't place where it is. It's in New York City by the ice skating rink, and this is Prometheus. And Titan Prometheus was said to have a philanthropic way. He gave mankind two gifts: fire, without which all of the arts of a productive civilization would be impossible, and blind hope, without which human beings would ceaselessly see their own doom. So that's and it's said that he had in Greek, it's philanthropos tropos, a human loving way. So what's important? What are some of the values that you learned from your parents and then over your lifetime? Meaning, faith, legacy. And then, I think what we all are concerned with is growing great humans. So let's talk a little bit about what's important. Oops, I'm sorry. That was what was in my, I apologize. I got ahead of myself. What's not important? Conspicuous consumerism, online persona, comparison, envy. These things, I think we can all agree are not as important as I think we get caught up in our online, our online persona, our social media, and it's just not that important. So themes of this talk are going to be the meaning of wealth, what's an appropriate inheritance, financial education, and modeling values through philanthropy. What does wealth mean to you personally? What does it mean to your family? How much is enough to leave your children? I think this is really a moving target. We see as children grow older and have their own success, that often that number that, drops. People start to say, well, my kids have done really well. And in some cases have done better than I did. And so those, that's a bit of a moving target, as I said. So how do we teach our children what we value as a family? How do we educate our children to manage money? And how can we use philanthropy to model these values? Most of us, have a plan around retirement or vacations or other goals related to finance. Fewer of us have a plan around how we give money away. And I think that that's really important. I advocate for this all the time as we talk with clients and with donors about really having a plan. And we're gonna really drill into that a little bit today. So this is a quote from Aristotle underscoring the problem about how we give money away. It's simple to just give money away. Literally anyone will take it from you. It's no one's going to question it. They'll take it. But I'm advocating here for, to have a plan. If you have a plan for how you want to make the world a better place, you can use that plan to eliminate the things that don't fit into it. Having a plan for what you want to say yes to allows you to say no to the things that aren't as important. And I'm really advocating involving your family in these conversations, and use a community foundation. Consider a donor advised fund. A donor advised fund is a fund often held at community foundations, but other people do that too, where you make your philanthropic gift to the donor advised fund, and then based on so you get the tax deduction there for the gift that you make to the donor advised fund, and then you can use that almost like a charitable checking account where you are making grants in essence to the nonprofits that you care about. So involve your family in those conversations. And again, think about the impact that you can make. I actually have a friend who's a wealth advisor and CPA, and he told me a story one time about a lady who came to visit him at tax time, and she had a shoebox full of gift receipts that she had accumulated over the previous year. And as they went through that box to do her taxes, he said that she had given virtually $25 to virtually anyone who had asked over the time. And as they totaled them up, it totaled up to $25,000 that she had given away, $25 at a time. And I think that that's in a way kind of sad, because those 25 gifts, while they're great, they didn't really move the needle for any organization that she supported. However, had she given $25,000 away, or given away 15 and 10 or whatever, it could have had a much better impact. And I think that's an example of someone who just didn't have a plan for how they were going to give money away. So talking about money, throughout my career, I've had people say to me, I can't believe that you'd want to be a professional fundraiser. I can't believe that I can't even imagine asking people for money. The reality has been very different for me. I found over the years that development officers oftentimes become trusted advisors, and I feel like I've helped numerous people achieve the kinds of things that they wanted with their philanthropy, and really achieve their goals. And I've enjoyed that. So as we think about money, there's a couple different ways that we can approach that. We can approach it from a place of abundance, where money is a tool. It's it's regenerative, it's cyclical, it replenishes itself, and you have gratitude for what you have. So how we approach money, I think, is really important. So you can approach it again from a place of abundance or a place of scarcity. Is money a tool or is money a burden? Is it, for the scarcity place, money's difficult and divisive. It's, there's never enough. Money buys things. It's not, it's a burden. We found that the kinds of individuals who operate from the abundance arena are often entrepreneurial in their approach, in their lives. They again, having that view of money as a tool and understanding that it can be replaced. Oddly, we've seen too that individuals who inherit great sums of money, you would think would be philanthropic, but often are not, because they operate from a place of scarcity, and they seem to feel that the money they've inherited, if it goes away, they have no way of replenishing it, and that it's they didn't earn it, so they don't know how to re-earn it. And I believe this is an important consideration as you think about inheritance and what that means for children. So let's talk a little bit about the principles of abundance. First, every woman, every man has a legacy, a voice, values, and vision. Why your story is important, why your career has been important, what you want to be remembered as having been as a person, the things that gave you joy, the things that gave you your life meaning, something that, focusing on something that you're grateful for that's changed your life. What if you had $1 million? How would you change the world if you were going to give $1 million away? Write your story and provide a way for you to articulate that, your legacy and your unique talents and abilities. If you were writing your story, I should say, spark your passion to engage in projects with others that make your heart sing. Give energy and meaning to your values and your voice and your vision for a better world. And I said at the beginning that, that as we founded Trek Advancement, we wanted to talk about and focus on donor-centered fundraising. And I think there are a lot of people who think about that, give lip service to that, but don't really fully appreciate what that means. And I think when you're donor-centered in your approach as a fundraiser, speaking from that chair, you allow people to do the things that that they're passionate about. And that's what if philanthropy is supposed to feel good. If this doesn't, if making a gift doesn't make you feel good, if it feels like a burden, you shouldn't do it. You really should not. So every woman, every man is a philanthropist. It's about the giving of time, talent, and treasure. It's not about great wealth, but it's about desire to make a difference and leave the world a better place. Practicing philanthropy is living the values you believe that are the best use of your resources. Another thing that I really like about philanthropy is that it gives you the freedom of choice in how you distribute your gifts. You can give to the things that matter to you. So, are you a voluntary or involuntary philanthropist? Do you direct your money, or does your money direct you? Is it the obligatory giving that we talked about with the lady in the shoebox, or is it inspired giving that really makes your heart sing? What do you want to do with your money that's meaningful to you? third, every woman, every man makes a difference. Mother Teresa said, "We ourselves feel that that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop." And I think that's true. It's just the tiniest little bit of difference moves the needle as we go. So our passion. How do we choose to spend our time? How do we choose to give our talent? And how do we choose to give our treasure? Values-based giving is so important. Philanthropy is an investment. Through philanthropy, you can cure, you can improve, you can educate, but as an investment, and like all investments, you should expect a return. I'll tell another quick story. I had the opportunity one time to talk with a donor who was fortunate enough to be able to give away some large 7-figure kinds of gifts, and was able to do those kinds of things. And as we were talking about it, he was telling me about the gift that he made. And I said, what happened with that? And he said, well, I don't really know. I assume they did what they said they were going to do. And I thought that was maybe the saddest answer that I had ever heard to what should have been a really exciting conversation around how his gift made a difference. So, expect to see results, hold nonprofits accountable, demand that the things that you want to do with your philanthropy actually happen. So another part of this that I'd like to talk about is raising charitable children, and how, as a family, we approach giving, and we approach the things that are important to us as families. This is a question, how can I raise my children to be more charitable, is a question that parents of children of all ages and backgrounds often ask. As adults, men and women exhibit different motivations for giving, different patterns of giving, and different likelihoods and amounts of their giving. Sustainable charity from adults is usually caused by a connection to the mission and the work of the organization. It becomes part of their life, and they, and that interaction and that regularity that they with which they interact with the nonprofit, sort of fosters that. In fundraising, we call that stewardship. But how did these adults come to be charitable in the first place? What leads adults to philanthropy? It's gratitude leads to empathy. Empathy leads to charity. So this is interesting. Great, as we try to raise grateful children who and instill these types of values in our children. What we find and what studies show is that stage one, gratitude and why it's important. Research shows that grateful teens are happy, hopeful, and better behaved at school. And by the way, I do have source material for all of this that I will share with Sherry and Chris after this is over. So if you have questions about it and would like to do some further reading, I can provide that. Grateful high school age students have higher GPAs and are as well as better social integration and satisfaction with life. Grateful children are better friends to others. Athletes who embrace a grateful attitude are less likely to burn out, more likely to experience high life satisfaction and team satisfaction. And according to a 2008 study in the Journal of Social, that is according to a 2008 study in the Journal of Social Indicators in Research and of high schoolers. Being grateful reduces stress. It boosts immunity. In the face of loss, it helps us deal better with loss. So how do we instill gratitude in our children? Well, first we model gratitude, thanking each other for common everyday tasks, writing thank you notes to relatives and friends for nice gestures and things they do, daily listing of people and things we're grateful for. This is important, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go. These things can be written down. You can just sort of do a mental checklist if you like, but it's important. Studies show that daily exercise practices, physical exercise practices, and listing of things you're thankful for are linked with a brighter outlook on life and a greater sense of productivity. Writing down what you're thankful for as you drift off to sleep can quiet the mind and help you get better sleep. And according to a study of the Journal of Applied Psychology, researchers found that when people spent 15 minutes jotting down what they're grateful for in a journal before bedtime, they fell asleep faster, they stayed asleep longer, and they worried less. Participants with neuromuscular disorders reported that they had more refreshing sleep within 3 weeks' time of taking on a practice like this. So thinking about the things about thinking about thoughtful things that your partner has done for you was also linked with beneficial outcomes around relationships. Researchers found that gratitude for everyday kind gestures helps us become close to people who care about us. They calm us and they calm us. So next, let's talk about empathetic behaviors. Studies show that empathy starts off in children as young as 17 months old, but then it starts to taper off at around 4 years old. Thankfully, for all of us, as it ramps up again as kids hit the tween years. There are ways to help empathy along and encourage this type of behavior. Some of those, talk about emotions, point out characters in books who are happy or sad. Children are more likely to share and help others when they had parents who asked them to label and explain emotions depicted in books. Focus on other people's feelings when disciplining. Talk to your children about the consequences of his or her actions, and help them understand empathy that way and kindness. It's not just how do you it's how do you think hitting Annie in the head with a pine cone made her feel, rather than, you did that, so we're going to take away your, your video game time or whatever, which, that in turn then focuses them back on themselves rather than what their actions do to other, the impact they have on other people. So, studies show that type of redirection and that kind of pointing out people's feelings leads to children that are more altruistic and more likely to help, when other people are hurt or in need of help. Ask your children to model behavior of a good persona. Researchers have also found that the language adults use to label kids' behavior can affect how kind and helpful they decide to be. So, ask them to be a helper rather than to help. And again, studies show that doing this with children increases the likelihood that they'll be a helper later on in other situations. Demonstrate empathetic behavior. Many studies have shown that watching their parents share with other children, that children are more likely to do the same when they watch their parents do that. Help dispel stereotypes. Again, research shows that children associate negative stereotypes with people who are considered poor, and positive stereotypes with children who are considered with people who are considered wealthy. By explaining to children that every group of people includes various types of people with many different traits, children are more likely to humanize these people without applying stereotypes. And one good way to do this is to talk with them about different circumstances rather than the traits related to people who are different from your own family. Additionally, talk about how your own family became so fortunate, why you're so fortunate as a family, what circumstances led to that. This sheds light to your children on that, that not everyone is the same. How to encourage charity. Charitable behavior is learned early in life, and there's little known about how girls and boys learn and become charitable adults. In a study that was done at IUPUI called Women Give 2013, they investigated 2 ways in which parents teach children about giving and whether girls and boys respond differently to those approaches. They examined whether differences exist by age, income, race. They used longitudinal data from the panel study of income dynamics and its child development supplement across 2 time periods within the same households to assess whether talking with children about charity and role modeling charitable behavior has an effect. And some of the key findings from that study are that girls and boys are equally likely to be charitable. Nearly 9 out of 10 children, 8 to 19 years old, had a desire to give to charity. Girls, however, are more likely to volunteer than boys. Most children have parents who talk to them about giving and charity regularly. Talking to children about charity has a greater impact on a child's giving than role modeling does. So it's not, role modeling is good, but talking about it also is better. And talking to children about charity is equally effective regardless of the parent's income level. And talking to children about charity is equally effective regardless of the child's race, gender, or age. This study provides compelling evidence that parents play an important role in preparing their children to become charitable adults. We find that both girls and boys who have parents who talk to their children about giving significantly increases the likelihood the child will give to charity. This is true even after we take into consideration the parents giving and their role modeling. These findings are consistent across economic levels again, and we also find that talking to children about charity has a similar effect regardless of age. Discussing what's important to your family, find the time to talk with your entire family about what you value. Talking about how we give back as a family, discuss situations where you or your family could help someone or help a cause. Role model charitable behavior, demonstrate that acts of charity are important and let your children see that. And then complete charitable works together. Have projects as a family that show your children what you as a family, what you value. So what's success look like? It's a family that knows who it is, a family that knows what it stands for, and a family that knows where it's going. And I think that, again, having this plan around it, having a complete conversation around your charitable giving and why it's important, just adds a richness to this whole process that is, in my opinion, so important. So here's strategic questions. Here are some questions that you may want to ask your family as you think about charitable giving. What's our vision for the future? How can we work together? How can we make collective decisions regarding money, philanthropy, and legacy? How do our values inform those decisions? So these are common capacity obstacles that happen very often in my business. We hear this often. I wish I could do more. I don't have enough money to make a gift. I have to support a child or grandchild's educational needs or some other thing like that, and it's not a good time to make a gift. These are common. I'm going to, as we sort of shift gears now away from, the family and what, how you can use philanthropy as a tool in raising children, we'll start to think about these capacity objections, but then also how you can use planned giving to meet those charitable goals. Planned giving often sets up win-win situations that solve other problems, but also allow you to make significant philanthropic and meaningful philanthropic gifts. So you have some options with planned giving. You can give simply, as should not be a surprise. You can give and receive, and you can give and protect. First, let's talk about just giving. So the simplest planned gift that you can make is a bequest. There are two actually, a bequest and also a beneficiary designation, where you could, what you could do with an insurance policy or something like that. But let's today focus on a bequest. And a bequest is simply just made through a will or a trust and dictates how an individual's property will be distributed at death. It's very simple to set up. It's not very confusing. Everyone sort of understands how this one works. It's easy to establish. There's a minimal expense to donors, and you have the comfort of knowing that a bequest, there are irrevocable requests, but most of the time bequests are revocable. The ideal asset that you can use, really anything can be used as a bequest. Obviously, you could leave property, you could leave cash, whatever, securities, any number of things. So on this next slide, I'm going to show you an example of how a bequest works. I'm using AAD-OCR as an example here because they're sponsoring the presentation today. But mentally, go ahead and put any organization that you care about into that spot. So again, the donor includes the nonprofit in their will or trust, and then the gift costs nothing during your lifetime. At the end, when you pass away, your assets are distributed to your heirs and the charities that you care about. Bequests do not affect your current income or your current assets. There are tax savings around that are, that can be gained. You cannot use a bequest to protect assets. It does not provide income to a donor or a beneficiary. It does nothing in terms of wealth transfer to future generations, and they are revocable. Next, let's talk about giving and receiving. The most common way to give and receive is the charitable gift annuity. And charitable gift annuities are basically a contract with a nonprofit where you put a sum of money into the annuity. There are actuarial tables that sort of dictate how and when, how money will be distributed back to you. And that annuity is then backed by the assets of the nonprofit. And so what happens then is you take that money, you put it in the annuity. In this case, AA DOCR says, okay, we're going to set up this annuity, we'll back, we'll do that. They then you receive a check every month or every quarter, however you choose to do it, for the rest of your life or the life of another person. At the end of that period, whether it's your death or the death of another, or a specific time amount, the corpus that goes into that annuity is then given to the charity that you have chosen. So pros and cons for a charitable gift annuity: they offer guaranteed lifetime income in payments backed by the assets of the nonprofit, as I said. It often increases the amount of money this depends largely on age, but it oftentimes increases the amount of money that you would make off that asset otherwise. And then it eliminates capital gains tax, so the entire value of the appreciated asset can be used, and that's in part because you're giving the corpus away. It has a blended tax treatment of the annuity income that allows a portion to be treated as tax-free return on principal. And again, the age of the beneficiaries determines the fixed value of the payment. The older you are, the higher the payment. It's probably not a good idea to set up a charitable gift annuity at 20 years old. Maybe a really good idea at 70 years old. Ideal assets, really, you can only use cash and appreciated securities. You could sell another asset, say, and then use it to fund an annuity, but you can't fund an annuity with real estate or something like that. So now the little flow chart to show you how that works. So again, the donor puts the money in the annuity, the fixed income and deduction come back to the donor, and at the end of that term, the remainder goes to the nonprofit that you choose. So let's talk about some of those. This will affect your current cash flow in a positive way. There are tax advantages to it. A charitable gift annuity can defer or eliminate capital gains tax and reduce estate tax at the same time. It will not protect the asset because the asset is then goes to the charity that you choose. It does create income for a donor or their beneficiary. It can be used in wealth transfer to the next generation, and it is not revocable. Once you do this, it is a contract, and it is not something that you can back out of. Finally, give and protect. This is kind of the mirror image. So a lead trust is kind of the mirror image of a charitable gift annuity, except you put the money into the trust as the donor. You then set you can be the trustee yourself, and the payments that go to the nonprofit each month. And at the end of the time of the trust, the corpus goes back to you or to an heir. So again, a charitable lead trust is a wealth transfer, a gift that enables donors to provide for heirs while reducing gift and estate tax during the term of the trust. And then the payments are made to the nonprofit, like I said, and it's sort of the opposite. Like I said, in the charitable gift annuity example, the gift, the annuity is backed by the assets of the nonprofit. In this case, the trust is backed by your assets, and so when you say, I'm going and take the tax deduction and say, I believe that I can make 6% a year on this money and give to this nonprofit that I care about, you have to do that. If the market tanks, you still have to give the 6% because you have taken the tax deduction in the beginning for that. So pros and cons: it allows donors to transfer to heirs a larger estate after taxes than would otherwise be possible. Appreciation of the assets is not subject to capital gains tax. It is subject, but not to a gift or estate tax, I'm sorry. And then the donor retains the ability to act as trustee and oversee the management of the money. In cases of a grantor trust, the trust annual income is taxable to the donor. Another thing to keep in mind. And how you can fund it. You can fund it with cash, appreciated securities, real estate, or other assets can be used to fund the lead trust if the asset can generate sufficient income. So for example, a building could be used if rents were sufficient to generate the necessary income for the nonprofit. And here's the flow chart of how that would work. You transfer the money to the lead trust. The fixed payments come to the nonprofit, and then ultimately the gift goes back to you or to a family member or heir. That's what I have to present today. I would welcome any questions. Oh, I do. Hold on. I do have one last thing that I want to talk about with the lead trust. It will affect your cash flow now, because you're in this one in a more negative way, because you're giving the money to a nonprofit. There is tax savings, and it will defer or eliminate capital gains tax and reduce estate taxes. It will protect that asset. It will not provide income. It does not provide income to a donor or beneficiary, but it is useful in wealth transfer to an heir. Also not revocable. And I want to say here at the end, one thing that I would recommend. There's an excellent book by just a prince of a man who used to work at Harvard University, named Charlie Collier, and it's called Wealth and Families. And if you're interested in some of the topics that I talked about today, Charlie was a mentor of my business partner. I had the pleasure of meeting Charlie and have read a lot of things that he's written, and he's been sort of an inspiration to me and the Trek family over the years. Unfortunately, Charlie ended up with dementia and is not, and I believe passed away a few years to be honest. But Wealth and Families is an excellent book. So questions, anyone? Okay, well, I hope you have found this useful and instructive, and thank you for your attention.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you, Brooks. And we will have this recording available, and those resources that you mentioned. Send those to Sherry, and we'll make sure we can somehow tag those so that everybody has access to that as well.
Sure,
so,
I'm happy to.
Perfect. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you all.